there, right? But they weren't going to do this. They weren't going to do this special service, this special ministry unto Yahweh. They were going to take care of the tabernacle, of the instruments, of the people, but they were not going to go into that place where they were going to minister only to him. They will enter my sanctuary, approach my table to minister to me, and perform my service. So there are instructions how to approach his presence. We want to come into his presence. That should be our goal every time we come here. That's our goal, to enter into his presence. So what are those instructions? We enter the gates, right? We enter the gates of the inner court, or well, actually, we enter the gates first, so we come into the courtyard. The gates are where we have thanksgiving. We give our thanks. We come to the altar, we ask for forgiveness. So that's where most people are. That's where we've all been so far this morning, right? We've come into those gates with thanksgiving and praise and worship in our hearts. Once the sons of Zadoch, those priests, once they enter the gates of the inner courtyard, they are to wear linen clothing. They are not to wear any wool while serving at the gates of the inner courtyard or inside it. They are to wear linen turbans on their heads and linen underclothes on their bodies. And they're not to wear anything that makes them sweat. In the Bible, linen, a fabric made from flax, carries a deep spiritual symbolism representing purity, holiness, righteousness, and divine service. The prohibition against priests wearing wool while ministering in the inner court carries deep spiritual meaning also. Wool, in contrast to linen, was associated with warmth, comfort, and human labor. And in ancient Israel, it was also linked to sweat and physical effort. And who likes the smell of sweat? None of us. It smells bad. And God doesn't like it. It's not a pleasing aroma to him either. When we come in with the linen is righteousness, but it's not ours. It's Yeshua. It's his righteousness that covers us. You know, this week as we studied the portion and we read about the priests and all the regulations for them, and I know in our group we looked at who can do this? Who can ever be? Because we're called a kingdom of priests, right, unto Yahweh. And it's only through Yeshua. It's only being covered by him and his righteousness that we're able to ever serve God, to ever be in his presence and have his presence fall upon us. Probably not all of us are going to be called to be sons of Zadoch, priests, because it's a heavy consecration and a sacrifice. It's given up a lot of our own selves and our lives. It doesn't mean that we're not still God's people and we're not still his and that he doesn't love us, but it's the level that we want to go. We should all be hungry and desiring a call, or have that call to have a deeper and closer walk with him no matter what. So in asking Yahweh, how do we serve only you? That was what puzzled me. How do we do that? What does that look like? If we look closely at these verses, we see our service to him is set apart. It's in the inner sanctuary. That's where we're serving him. That's that holy place, you know. Like I said, we come in with our thanks and but if we don't enter in even to those gates with our praise and our thanksgiving and come to those holy places like the altar and lay ourselves at that altar and ask for forgiveness and be cleansed, be made holy, we aren't going to be able to attain that inner sanctuary. We're covered with the righteousness of Yeshua, those linen garments, and that service is holy unto him. He wants us to abide in him, to spend time with him, seeking him first. Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then everything else is added unto us. Proverbs 3:6 tells us to acknowledge him in all our ways. And 1 Chronicles 16:11 tells us, seek Yahweh and his strength, and always seek his presence. In studying this portion, I listened to an amazing message, but it just brought me under such conviction, and I realized that it hasn't been me. I've not been seeking that holy place every day and all the time like I should. I've not been. I've been, just lost in my own head and doing other things. And whatever our flesh pulls us towards, to laziness or just doing other things. And it was like, this brought me back around. I realized that entering in, we've got to enter in every stage, every phase. When we walk in and we come in with the praise on our lips and we're seeking him, we enter in and we get closer to that holy place, okay? So we come into that inner place. Then we've got the showbread, right? We have to eat of it. That's Yeshua. We have to eat of him. We have to consume him. And we have to come before the altar of incense. That is our praise unto him. That's our worship. It's not just singing songs, but it's our time of just being in his presence and listening to him and asking him to guide us. And that light that's in there, that's the light of the menorah. And it's what lights the room. That's his presence as well. He lights that room by that menorah, but if the priest hasn't lit the menorah, which they were required to do daily, it'd be dark in there. It's a covered, closed up tent. It would be dark inside. So it's important that every step in order be taken, because that's God's way. He has his instruction, and that's his way. Covering our body with the righteousness of Yeshua means putting away our thoughts. Yeah, okay, that is, I guess, the spot. Our heads are covered in a linen turban. That's an odd thing, kind of. But if you think about it, so physically take it. We can take these steps and we can put on the linen. I got linen pants on today. We can put linen things on us and think, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Now I can go into that Holy of Holies or that holy place of his presence. But can we? If we haven't really understood what it means. So being covered in his righteousness, putting away our thoughts, that's why it covers the head. It's to cover and his righteousness. He's going to change our thoughts. Our flesh deeds, our heads are covered in a linen turban, bringing our thoughts in submission to Yeshua. Isn't that what it says in Corinthians about taking our thoughts captive and making them submissive to the will of Messiah? The linen underwear covers the other parts of our body and denying flesh, so we know it covers the loins, right? That's the other part, the priest. So the loins, we can all imagine and know what that means. But it's covering those flesh desires, the places that we sometimes focus or our minds can drift. And he doesn't want that in his presence. It can't be in his presence. So we cover it. He covers it with Yeshua. He covers it with Yeshua. We can't do it ourselves. We can't. Even those priests, they may have covered with linen, but if they weren't going through the steps in those days, if they weren't righteous living, if they weren't abiding in him and doing his service, and we know the sons of Zadoch were, because that's why he honored them. It's why he called them in. He knew their hearts, and he knew that they had a pure heart in doing those things. So denying our flesh, we're focused on the spiritual service to him. Nothing of our flesh is welcome in that holy place with him. It's the act of abiding in him and him in us. And start to recognize when you're sweating. You know, the sweat of your brow, that's what Adam was cursed with, right? It's a curse to try to do it our way, to try to do it in our own efforts. That's not what he wants. He wants us to do it in his spirit and by his spirit. Not by might, right? Not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. He wants us to abide in him. Serving the people is a holy task, but it's not the same. The inner sanctuary is where we want to get to. And there's a reverence. It's reverence and a respect for it. We have to treat it that way. So in this verse, 44:19, before going out to the people in the outer courtyard, they're to remove the clothes in which they minister, lay them in the holy rooms, and put on other clothes, so that they won't transmit holiness to the people by means of their clothing. Odd, isn't it? That just sounded so weird. What does that mean? How does that mean? And then I heard it said that actually a comparison was made to many leaders and priests and rabbis and those who wear a cloak, and some wear, turnaround collar, and they do it in all the time. It sets them apart. They're shown, but in a sense, it's their garment. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's making people think that by getting close to you with those holy things, that holy presence, it's contagious. That holy presence that's on somebody, you can tell, and it's reserved for him. It's not for serving the people with. The people want to get close, and they may think that they can attain that righteousness just by coming close. And that's kind of what that refers to. No, they got to go through the steps themselves. They got to get it for themselves. In the latter days, these sons of Zadoch, the last day priests, maybe that's you. I hope so. I hope we all desire and have that in our hearts to want to be that holy nation, that holy set of priests unto him. They are to teach my people the difference between holy and common. Okay, so holy is his inner place where his presence dwells, right? Common is that outer courtyard. Common is where 90% or more of the church today, of God's people, that's where they hang out. That's where they stay most of the time. It's where the natural light is, that just comes, the natural light. But what was lit in that inner place? His menorah, right? His light. That was his way, his light. He wants us to go in and depend on him for that light. Not to be out where it comes by flesh again. It comes by whatever's out there. There's natural talk. That's common. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's common. We've got to get the jargon down, I guess, or whatever, the understanding that common's not sinful. It's just common. It's not holy. It's not set apart. So, teach my people the difference between holy and common, and enable them to distinguish or discern between clean and unclean. Tahor and tamai. Those are the Hebrew words for clean and unclean. How do we enable somebody to discern or distinguish? That was my other question. How do we do that? How can we do that? We can teach. We teach the Torah. We have Torah studies. We talk about it. We discuss it amongst ourselves. But how does that really enable somebody to know it, to distinguish it? So we can tell them, but the better way, I think, is by example. So when the fruits of that priest who is living that life, who is being clean, walking in that, abiding in him, we know it. We know people that are like that, right? Don't we gravitate towards them? Don't we have a desire to be around that? When the fruits of being clean are seen by others, I believe it helps them to discern. You kind of start to get a thing, well, what would so-and-so do in this situation? How would they handle this? Or maybe I can get advice from that person. They might know. I am doing that. It's not going. So the sons of Zadoch were faithful when others fell away. And I think I've already talked about it being one of the most overlooked parts of the Bible. Some of you had never even heard of them. Yet look at how important they are. They're God's heart, aren't they? They're the ones, that's what he wants us to desire, to be those who want to be in that inner sanctuary. So the sons of Zadoch from the days of David and Solomon to Ezekiel's vision of the restored temple, their story teaches us what it means to remain faithful when others fell away. Okay, this is a repeat. And I think I'm done. Except that I just wanted to say, don't hang out in the outer courtyard. Come in and partake. Partake of everything. Partake of the greeting one another when it's time to greet. We get inspired. We get love, right? We get to know people, but partake of every element. Every element of our service here is designed in order to take us into that holy place, that inner sanctuary. And that's why I say, if you want to really know him in that way, if you want to draw close, I know we all say it, yeah, we want to draw close, but are we willing to do the steps that it takes to draw close, to have his presence with us? And so that's what it takes. So when you come in, enter into every stage, go through the steps, lay things down at that altar, get yourself clean. We've got a hand washing, we've got the steps. As you come in, we have provided those things. So, desire to be a son of Zadoch. Listen to him and spend time. Spend time with him and in his word.